The Kenwood KD-2055. This has seen much better days in its time. It's going to need a little bit of work, a few new parts, and a whole lot of cleaning. Hey everybody, what's going on? Hope you guys are doing good. I'm doing just great. You know, still kind of dealing with the pain in my neck, literally going into my left arm, but that'll be taken care of when I go in for the MRI on Monday, find out what's going on and get it fixed. But anyways, I've got a whopping 30-pound, basically pretty damn close to it, turntable here, and this is the Kenwood KD. This is the 2055 that my uncle dropped off over here, and I'm going to do a restoration job on it. It has seen better days, probably a long time ago, but it sure has seen some better days. So I've already removed the hinges on the back of the unit. There are some plates on the inside of this that the hinges mount to, and basically what you do with the dust cover is you shift it over to one side, and then you can pick it up completely off the hinges. And yeah, everything seems to be in pretty good shape. Dust cover looks like it just needs a good sanding and polishing. It's got many scratches in it, but nothing's really dug into it, into the plastic, to where it's damaged it or destroyed it, where it can't be fixed. And as you can kind of see, well, this has been sitting around a long time, and it's very dusty. The nice thing about this, still has the original head shell, and this is also the original cartridge, I believe, that was for this thing that he was telling me about. Let's see what the number is on this thing. So it's an R25 EDT. I don't see any other rating on it. Maybe there might be some on the top of it when I remove it from the head shell. Now, what is this sitting on? A rubber pad? I think that's the first I've ever seen that before. Yeah, it's sitting on no, it's aluminum or rubber. Feels like very soft aluminum. I've never seen that before. And it's also sitting off to one side and crooked. That's not supposed to be like that. These are supposed to be square with the head shell. This is a S-style tone arm, and this is a aluminum tube, aluminum head shell, very light. So what makes this turntable almost 30 pounds? Well, it is a marble and concrete composite, and yeah, this has got almost 30 pounds of weight to it without anything, because the rest of the stuff that's on here is basically aluminum. You have a rubber mat here, an aluminum platter. This is belted driven, and as you can kind of see right here, well, here's the belt. It ended up disintegrating. I'm going to have to clean this off of here. Luckily, it did not disintegrate around the post for the motor. And let's see, this thing here is a spring-loaded. And I gotta see what, I can't remember what this was, but I have to look to see what that was. The KD500 doesn't have this, because the KD500 is not an automatic turntable. This one is automatic, so where the tone arm will return back to home place and everything else. The KD500 was not. So there's going to be some new parts on here that are different from the KD500, which I can already see I'm going to have one hell of a time cleaning the old belt off of this thing. So what I want to do is get this pretty much disassembled, removing everything that I need to remove off of this before I can start taking this part of the body and getting it cleaned up the way that I needed to get it. Now all the lines on this are nice and sharp. Nothing is cracked, broken, chipped out, or anything else. It's just, you know, filthy. It's just been sitting around for I don't know how many years. And then you have all the automatic shit for the tone arm. Raises it up as it spins, clicks into this thing, and as it's spinning it'll drop it down. Lock this back in place. Remove the counterweight, which this has got one heavy counterweight on there. Check the tone arm itself, and I could feel that it's going to need to be adjusted because it does feel kind of loose, and it feels loose at these points here where it pivots on for up and down. And I'll have to check the bearing out on the inside over there too. So this bearing here, which is loose, you can spin it, it's going to drop right in the inside. It's got Loctite on it. This is going to need some oil. Alright, so I'm going to have to flip this over, put something on each corner to keep this thing raised off the countertop, keep from crushing the tone arm, and get to work on it, because sitting around collecting more dust is just going to make more work for me to get this dust off of here. So what I need to do is find something to put underneath it, and I think I found it. So the plinth on this has been stripped out, everything has been removed, and all it is just the concrete and marble composite. Right now, all that's in here is these little sleeves. There's quite a few of them. They're brass, they're glued into the plinth, and it's for mounting everything. As long as you don't cross-thread anything during the reassembly, you should be fine, and everything should mount solid. I ordered a new power cable for this because the old one is dry rotted, and I also ordered a new RCA with ground for this. This way everything will be new. Also, the rubber bushings that go on the motor itself, they're a little dry rotted. They're kind of, well, they're still pliable. They're not like bad, but in time these could fail, could end up splitting on me or something, and you know, may not be able to get those parts again. So whatever I could replace is being replaced on this to make this unit to be pretty much restored, and should last another, oh shit, how many years? How old is this thing anyways? Damn, I think this came out in the 70s or something. So what I want to do is hit this with some really aggressive rubbing compound, kind of like if I was buffing the surface of a finish, but it's not going to polish this enough to give it a gloss. I also have to be careful because there is writing that is painted on here, and basically for your speed control right over here. And I have to be careful with that because the rubbing compound is aggressive enough to remove that, and I have nothing to put that back on. Also, the stickers on the back over here, I don't want to disrupt any of these, so the back will not be getting polished out like the top and the other three sides. So I'm going to go ahead and start with this. Like I said, I'm using a rubbing compound, a real aggressive one. The striping that is right here and a little bit over here are the remnants from the belt. And I scraped off as much as I could, and I'm going to see if the rubbing compound will remove the rest. So I'm going to get into that right now. All right, so looking at this right now, it's got a little bit of a sheen to it, not much, and it also feels, well, a lot smoother than what it did before I started doing the buffing on there. And now I'm going to complete this and get the whole top done and the sides and this inner area here. So here's your switching for 33 and 45 RPMs. And as you can see, all of this is just a teeter-totter effect, pushing down. I polished the shaft, I polished the bearing, and I polished the top over here, which gives this a nice smooth, now it's nice and smooth. Before it was a little bit grindy every time you pushed on this. Now it's nice and smooth. And you can see all it does is change the belt from one side of the pulley to the top side of the pulley. And yeah, this looks really good. Couple of C-clips, a little bit of a rubber grommet, that way it doesn't make a lot of noise when you push on it. Now to install it back into position, I polished and put the decorative sleeve. Also have the Kenwood nameplate on here. So I'm going to go ahead and install that right now. So here's the tone arm plate, and it's pretty much polished up really nice. If I wanted to give it the brushed aluminum look again, I would have to take some sandpaper and kind of go one direction with it. And the problem with that is, well, I got anti-skate written here. I got the Q up and Q down written over here, and that will end up going away. So luckily with the mother's aluminum and mag polish, I was able to clean this up pretty good, although there are some little bit of areas where the aluminum kind of pitted, but all in all it looks pretty good. So I'm going to put that off to the side, and I'm going to work on the tone arm itself right now. So the tone arm, the one thing I like about these older turntables is that their tone arms are with true bearings inside of them. I mean, literally small ball bearings instead of having a brass sleeve that another brass pin goes into, and they call that a bearing. So right inside of here, there are some little ball bearings, and I can kind of shift this a little bit up and down, very, very little. I could feel it more than I could see it, but what I want to do is tighten that up. Within time, age, and everything else, well, sometimes this will kind of loosen up a little bit and move it. So there are 2 set screws on each side. The bearings are all there. Doesn't look like any of them escaped through time, but through time it created a little bit of play. This moves very freely. I don't have to do anything with it. So there's probably a set of ball bearings at the top and a set at the bottom that I know of. And if I take this apart, well, there's going to be little bearings all over the place. So what I want to do is get my jeweler's screwdrivers. I want to loosen this up. There's 2 set screws on this ring. What I want to do is loosen this up. Now I don't know if it turns as far as the whole assembly goes. Like this is an actual nut, that because there are threads on this post. So if I loosen these guys up, very little, going to the other side without turning anything. Loosen this one up as well. Alright, so it's loose now, and it looks like it is maybe threaded just a little bit. Now what I want to do is I want to get rid of whatever play that I feel, making sure this is still turns freely, and give this a little bit of a snug. Tighten it up again on both sides. And kind of feel it. All right, to me that feels a little bit too tight. But there is no more play in there, so I'm going to loosen this up just a hair. Just a hair. And then back this off just a little bit. Feels all right as far as turning goes. Don't really feel any play in it. Now I'm not cranking these things down tight. I'm just kind of giving them a little bit of a turn to make it snug. All right, so that feels good. And I don't feel the play anymore. So now I'll tighten these up. And making sure I still have the same play or same freeness, but no play going this way. And that feels really, really good. Alright, so what I'm going to do is give it a couple of drops of the synthetic oil, which this stuff is really nice because it stays put. It doesn't like travel all over the place when you apply it. And I'm going to apply it at the bearing area right here. Not much, just a little bit. And then if my blower here has some power, I'm going to push it in. Oh, that was it. Alright, so that ain't going to work. I have to do it by manual. I want to blow some of that oil into there. And this is moving nice. I don't feel the bearings at all. And just by turning it a little bit, that oil will start working itself down. Like I said, I didn't use a lot of it. You never use a lot of oil on something, otherwise it makes a mess. Travels all over the place and gets all over everything. So there's no shifting from side to side, and there's no pulling up and down, and everything moves very freely. So what I want to do now is I want to put a little bit of oil somehow on the top over here and work its way in. So I got a little bit of a spot right there. I can force some oil in. Get it to go inside there. Work it a little bit. And clean up whatever extra oil, because you don't want to get any oil on your records or anything else. Alright, so the next part is the up and down, which I noticed that there was some very minute play in it. Very minute. And that could be fixed with just a turn of this screw on the side. There's two screws here. One is a locking screw and the other one is the screw with the pin on it. And I'll bring it a little bit closer so you can kind of see that. So you got a locking screw on the outside, and then you have a set screw inside the middle, which is a flathead screw. And what I want to do is kind of tweak it a hair. That's all I want, just a very little hair. The locking screw on the side of it, on the outside of it, will still keep it locked. To keep it from backing out. And as I turn the center screw, it'll lock itself in even more. But again, I just want to turn it a hair, nothing more than that. I want to keep it free. it seems to still float really nice, but get rid of that play that I was having between the two parts that touch. So now I want to hit it with a little bit of the oil again, just in the area where it's going to pivot. Work it in there, and then check it again to make sure that there's no play back and forth. So what it is the pin that's inside of here are tapered to a point, and that point meets the inside of this area over here on each side, and it keeps the tone arm centered in position where it only has a pivot point to move up and down and not side to side. So what I want to keep this is making sure there is no side to side, or even like a play going twisting it from side to side, and that will keep this in place really nice. It's free, but yet everything is still loose. So another thing I want to do is make sure that this line here is lined up with the line over here, which it looks like it is. So I don't think I have to change that. Which this line here shows the weight as far as the gauge that's on the weight, so you know where 0 is, and you know that it's 0. Then you turn the dial to 0, and it should line up with this line here. And then when you go ahead and turn it for your downforce weight, you'll know exactly where it's supposed to be at according to this line and whatever number is showed up on there. So what I want to do check now is for any dents or any damage to the actual tone arm itself, and it does not look like there's any problem. So now I can go ahead and start polishing this up a little bit and just cleaning off some of the years that accumulated on this. So right now I want to start assembly of the anti-skate adjustment. So we have a knob, finger, thumb knob, whatever you want to call it. This has been polished. We have the back where it's got the slide. It also is tapered to where it starts bigger and then moves to a smaller. There is a washer that goes on the back, a little ball bearing, and a little spring. You probably can't really see it too well, but they go in there. So we have a hole right over here, and we have a small spring that is going to go into that hole. Push that down in there. Now I want to take a little bit of this oil, put a dab on top of there, not much. The ball bearing will ride that spring as it clicks over and kind of acting as a lock. Make sure there's no hairs or anything on this. It kind of acts as like a lock, but doesn't like permanently lock it. All right, get down in there. Get down in there and stay there. All right. So it's got some notches inside of here that bearing rides into, and when the bearing rides into those notches, you'll hear or feel a click, and it kind of keeps the anti-skate in one position. So I'm going to go ahead and slide the knob in there. And I'm going to put a little bit of pressure on that. So put some pressure on that spring. I'll go ahead and put the washer in place, and I want to go ahead and put the anti-skate surface adjustment on there, which this is also keyed, so you have to find the flat area and put that on there. I'm going to squeeze these two together, lock it with the set screw. And then turn this, make sure I feel the click. Yep, feel the click, just got a little bit of a spring to it. Make sure that pin is moving where it's supposed to. And just make sure that this is not really loose. Now what I want to do is take some white lithium grease. Doesn't have to be a lot, just a little bit. And I'm going to put it on this area here where the adjustment rides. Like I said, it doesn't have to be a lot. And then remove whatever I can. Now, as this will turn, you'll spread that around, making a nice surface for that pin to ride on. Alright, so now I can start with the tone arm mounting on this plate. So I'm going to try to put this tone arm back together on its plate, and then I have some other bits and pieces that have to go on this as well. There's a lot of little parts that kind of work together and make this function the way it's supposed to. So I'm going to go ahead and fish the wires through here. Pull this in place. There's 3 screws that go on the back of this. And let's see here, use the right screwdriver for this, because if you don't, you can end up with issues. I really don't want that. Now they use Loctite on everything on this thing. Anything that had a screw, it got Loctite on it. So what I'm going to end up doing is later I will go in the garage and get some Loctite and tack each piece that's supposed to get Loctite on it. The tone arm, assembly, and plate are all mounted and all functioning right now. All I have to do is wait to get this in place and fine-tune anything that needs to be fine-tuned, which there are quite a few parts on this that are going to have to be fine-tuned once I get everything put together and a motor in place, and then the platter on top of that with the belt, and then start tweaking things as how the auto return, the auto play, how that's all going to function and work. Things are going to be a little bit sloppy. Well, it's why they call it fine-tuning. The whole idea of putting this plate back into place was to line up the screws that lock it in place on top of the shaft for the tone arm, and hopefully matching up where the screw made indentations on that shaft and locking it in place. So I think I got it pretty close. I'm not sure if it's exactly where it's supposed to be, but it should give me a roundabout to where I can get this thing tweaked and everything will work correctly. So the anti-skate, all that is a pin that rides on the tone arm, and what that does is just adds a little bit of resistance to the tone arm. Some people don't even use it, but the correct way is to match the counterweight and the setting on here to kind of have it balance itself. You don't want to have the needle riding one side of the wall of the album or the other. You kind of want to keep that centered. So the Q up and Q down is in place, which this involves a thumb screw right here, which is adjustable. Now the more you tighten this up, the less this goes up to Q up the tone arm. The more you loosen it, the more this will go higher. And the whole idea is for this pressure bar over here to push on that, and it engages the Q, drop it down, and the Q goes down nice and slow. Now, the way this is supposed to be is it's supposed to Q up fast and then drop down slow. And the reason being for is you don't want the needle bouncing on the record as the needle starts to make contact with the album. And I didn't grease or change anything with that because it's actually functioning the way it's supposed to, coming back slowly, and that's how it's supposed to work. So everything looks like it's in position the right way. The one thing about the Q is once you unlock the tone arm, you Q up, and you want to be able to move the tone arm in and out of the lock tone arm lock without it hitting it. And it seems like that's what it's doing right now. And I can use that as a reference for the final setup of this. So the wires that are coming off of the tone arm and where the cartridge and the head shell meet. So you have a ground for the tone arm itself. You have a ground for the head shell. Get that off to the side. There's a wire that goes up to the tip over here, which grounds the head shell. And then you have these 4 wires here, which is your left and right, and positive and negative going to the cartridge itself. But all of this was wrapped in a braided harness, which I'm going to make a new one. And this was also grounded to the inside of the machine, where all of the wires meet up and all the grounds meet up. But it looks a little bit shitty, frayed out, and it just doesn't look very good. So I'm going to end up replacing that and putting a new one in here. And it seems like everything is, well, falling into place and lining up where it's supposed to be, until I notice different when I get things put together. Alright, so now to turn this piece of history into an actual working turntable. So the cartridge is not installed yet, but these are the wires going to the tone arm. I ended up putting the shielding braid. I've got a bunch of wire that is for guitars, and all I did was pull out the center and put the wires that come out from the cartridge in there, along with a ground, because this shield is grounded. Otherwise the shielding is not going to do shit for any type of interfering noise that's coming from the pickup if it's not shielded properly. Now I also put a little mark right there, as you can see, that on this plate here that also works with this plate here. And what this does is, here is your auto return and some of your cueing for shutting it off. This leaf switch here is your on and off switch. All this does is, when you pull it down, pulls this lever on, turns that switch on, turns the motor on. Now the platter is spinning. And when you hit the cue, this will be pulled back up automatically, pushing this bar, and I'll explain what this is over here. And the mechanism will end up lifting, cueing the tone arm and bringing it back to home position, and then shutting off the machine. So this here, you have a leaf switch over here that turns on the cartridge when the machine is powered up. So right now, if this were to be connected without this switch, it would basically be a pass-through to your amplifier without having any type of a shut-off, meaning that the cartridge would be live all the time and possibly picking up any type of interference noise or whatever. This way, with this here, with all the RCAs and the wires coming from the cartridge going to this, it has something to shut it off and keep it from doing so. So now let's go under this thing here, because that right there is a pain in the ass. Alright, so there's no grease on here, nothing that's going to be sticky or make anything be a problem. I will be putting white lithium grease on this here, because this plate here helps with the auto return, and also that's the cue right there for that. This spring here, now the KD-500 is not an automatic turntable at all. It's all manual. And this spring here works as resistance on this plate here, or actually removing resistance on this plate here that is caused by this pain in the ass right there. So I've kind of like free-floated everything, testing it to see how it works and making sure that everything is functioning the way it's supposed to be. Well, no matter where I set the tensioning spring for the auto return, it was not working properly to make the tone arm go back to home position. So the problem was this here. Inside here is a clear, very thick grease that is very sticky. Okay, that adds resistance to the tone arm as it returns, and then the spring with the adjustment on the other side, underside of the platter, ends up taking some of that resistance off and speeding up the process of bringing the tone arm back after auto shut off or cueing. So what I ended up doing is removing some of that grease to free this thing up a little bit to where now it does have, and it does do what it's supposed to do, but it's not a lot of tension on it like it was. So that's what this does. That's what was in the hole right here, and that was the black knob on the other side. So I got the spindle pretty much in its location, not permanent for right now. I still have to do a little bit of work with it, but now I can mount this up after I do a little bit of greasing on here with the white lithium grease, and I'm going to have to do some fine tuning on the other side and see how this is going to work, because this here, for queuing up and down using this, basically raising up and putting down the tone arm, works properly with no issues. But when I do it with this, it seems like it's not putting enough on here to push this up to raise the tone arm up for going back to home positions. It's got to go up just a little bit. So on the other side of this, the whole pin assembly over here is adjustable. So what I would do is loosen up the set screw on the other side, bring this pin up a little bit, and then readjust this screw here, thumb screw, for the other side for the cueing for just picking up the tone arm and putting it back down. So it's all at the same height. So everything, when it goes from, if you're doing manually or auto, everything kind of matches up and goes back where it's supposed to go without any glitches. So I'm going to start doing that in a little bit once I kind of go over the new parts. So this bag here has got the new bushings for the motor. You kind of see these are kind of nasty and dry rotted a little bit. And this box here has the new belt and the legs that go for this. I end up getting new legs, brand new belt. The power cord will be here sometime today. And then I put a new set of RCAs, which these are gold plated RCA ends with the ground. I've got the plate already mounted, so that would go right over here on this side where that notch is. Now let's get to work. Alright, so now that I have the cue set to pick up the tone arm at the right height, now what I need to do is go on the inside of here. On the back of this plate there is a thumb screw that is for the pick up over here, for picking up the tone arm and picking it up off of the album itself. So what I need to do is to readjust that spring on the inside. So when this is down, it's at home place right now, and it's set where the height needs to be. But when I raise it up, it goes up a little bit. What I need to do is set this to where when I raise this up, this doesn't move. So what I have to do is turn this to tighten the screw, and there is a way of getting to it with your finger. It's just a very, very tight fit. So what I need to do is tighten this up, making sure that this is going to go back into its hole, because there is a guide over here. There we go, back into its guide. Alright, so now I put the tone arm back here, lock it in position if I can, and when I turn this down, these two should still be the same height, flipping this up and down. So if I go ahead and put this in play mode, this will go down. If I pick this up, it should go right back to the same height. So if I hit the cue, yep, it did not move. It's still at the same height. So that part is done. Now I can start working on the wiring. Alright, so right now all that's left is a series of ground wires that need to be connected, jumping from one place to another. And the motor is installed. I got the new bushings in there. New power cable has been installed. New RCA cable has been installed. New braided shielding wire that goes over the cartridge wiring. Everything is connected. Everything is soldered. And so far everything is working properly, but you're going to have to wait to find out how good it is in the next video. Later, guys.